herb knife to get on this herb mic. You know I'm alert, right? You know that it ain't nothing to serve, right? And I be killing tracks to the...
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to be talking about Survivor Series 2022 WarGames. And it closed very strong. And there was a lot of strong stuff on this show. Particularly one match was very, very weak. Very weak. But we'll get there. The cold open started featured Ozzy Osbourne. Never really been much of a Black Sabbath guy myself. I've probably heard more Black Sabbath in the lead up to this goddamn pay-per-view than I did at any point in my life. And I am familiar with a lot of rock bands, and I have heard of Black Sabbath. But for Christ's sake, I have never listened to so much Black Sabbath before in my life. Can Triple H find AC/DC again? Or something, you know. A little bit of Radiohead, maybe. I think they had a Coldplay era. I think WWE had like a little Coldplay era. I don't think I was feeling that too much, but I was definitely feeling that a little bit more than their Tiny Tempa, Flow Rida era. I wasn't feeling that shit at all, even though it was rap music, kinda pop rap. I was not feeling that shit at all. So it was a little bit more Black Sabbath than I'm used to. But I thought the video was very cool. The cold open is very good. First match, Damage Control, Nikki Cross and Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, and Becky Lynch and Mia Yim, who are still going by Michin. They're going back and forth on this whole Michin thing. Sometimes they're saying Michin, sometimes they're saying Mia Yim. All right, so Bianca Belair's team is victorious. Which I guess I saw coming. This is a pretty standard War Games match for, the NXT variety, where there's a lot of crazy spots of people jumping off stuff. Interestingly enough, Bianca started her match with Dakota Kai, and Michael Cole was incredibly cringe by referring to her as King Coda. It's like, yeah, we've gone so far with women's rights that they don't want to be women anymore. How weird is that? I mean, how weird is that? Anyway, Nikki Cross introduced the weapons, the kendo sticks and stuff. Asuka was doing pretty good. Her offensive flurry with Io was pretty good. Io botched something in this match, which, it's kind of, when the spotlight is on you, the spotlight is on you. And when you're a high flyer, you tend to screw things up. Bayley brought in a ladder when she eventually came in. Auntie Pam looked a lot like Auntie Pam in this match. She was just present. Rhea Ripley, really, when she got in, she did very good. She was, dominant. She was imposing. She hit her finish on Becky Lynch, which I thought was pretty cool. Becky Lynch came in last for her team and was the last person into the match. And Becky took a lot of damage. She took a rose plant, which is one of Bayley's finishers, on that metal piece that's between the two rings. She also took a riptide. So they really just did some work on Becky. Asuka weakened Rhea Ripley with the poison mist, which I thought was a nice spot. I wish it would have taken Rhea out of the match, like, put her in a corner or something like that, so it'd make her sort of, I wouldn't say eliminated, but it was a way where she couldn't really be too effective in the match after that. Like, I felt like it would have been a better way of using it. There was the finish. Let's talk about the finish. Well, there was one spot that Io Sky, did a moonsault off the top of the cage onto Bianca and Mia. It was flush, too. It was a flush moonsault. So it looked pretty good. But the finish came with Becky Lynch leaping off the top of the cage through Io and Dakota Kai, who were laying on the table. And it was sort of a double pin, but it was mostly a pin on Dakota Kai. So Becky Lynch gets the win. She gets her revenge on Damage Control. All right. Dakota Kai takes the pin, which I kind of guessed, even though I thought mostly that Nikki Cross would take the pinfall. It was a solid enough match. Becky had some kind of sharp Ginyu Force type of arm shoulder support thing. That shit like something that you would have saw out of them weirdo fashion magazines, which I guess is part of her gimmick still. The match itself again was solid. There was nothing in it that was, swerve or this was the action match. This was the match where they just did everything. They jumped off of the ladder. They crashed through a ladder. In this match, they jumped off the cage a lot. There was a lot of that stuff in this match, and they did a good job, I will say. By they, I mean WWE. By making the two matches feel different. The women's match was the action match, while the men's match was the storytelling match. Speaking of which, we kind of got the storyline throughout the show, which was very good. Roman and Jay is backstage, and Jay comes to Roman and explains that he never trusted Sammy. He doesn't trust Sammy, and he blames Sammy for the loss on SmackDown and said the only reason he didn't get him is because Roman didn't give the order. But he knows that Sammy lied to him and said, "So what we gonna do?" So Roman told him that he's gonna look Sammy in the eye and he was gonna know whether Sammy was telling the truth or not. So later in the show, Roman summons Sami Zayn to him, but Sami Zayn tells Roman the truth. He said he did talk to Kevin Owens, but rather he reversed it and said like Kevin Owens was talking to him. Said that he didn't want to distract Jay with the truth because he had a big match lined up. So he didn't want to tell Jay the truth. But he told Roman the truth and said that he is always with Roman and he's got Roman's back. And they hug and they're prepared to go out there and win this thing. So later, Jay just, double checking to make sure Roman was not being lied to. But Roman said, hey, he's going to handle this. He's the tribal chief. He's got this thing handled, right? Okay. So we go into the main event. The Brawling Brutes, Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens versus the Bloodline. Very awkward with the baby faces having the man advantage and no way of reversing course. So we started the match with Butch, who was probably the man who could eat up 5 minutes with arm bars and stuff like that. I mean, it's more Butch and Jey Uso. A nice little storytelling element on the second pick because Ridge Holland comes in. I want to talk about Ridge Holland a little bit, but I want to talk about the Sami Zayn stuff because Jimmy was volunteering to go second, but Roman pulled Jimmy back and sent Sammy first in order to force Sammy and Jay to work together. So this was a good storytelling element. We saw these two having conflict. Now they're the only two in the ring. Is Sammy going to do the right thing and help Jay out? Is Jay going to do the right thing and help Sammy out? Well, things got a little ugly when Jimmy came in there. They were temporarily off focus. The commentary's talking about, Roman Reigns must be disgusted. And he's like, oh well, they got back they got back together pretty quickly. So when everybody else came in, they did the old Warrior spot where, the crew stand across from each other. This one didn't hit the same, even though visually it was impressive. They couldn't clash because everybody has to go through those damn ropes. That's the two rings. We got to go through the ropes in order to get to each other. It's ridiculous. But they did the big fight scene where every member of the Bloodline gets 10 beats to Balor. It was pretty wild. We get some more story stuff when Jay kicks Sammy accidentally because Butch dodged him. So that led everybody to being like, shit got real. Jay done kicked Sammy, shit done got real. But they bounced back. They didn't let that stop them. They kept pushing forward. Sammy saved Roman from Kevin Owens. Later in the match, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are arguing. Kevin Owens verbally is like, this is your family, talking about Roman Reigns kicking them, and Sami's like, yeah, that's my family. So Jimmy tries to super kick Kevin Owens. He catches the foot. And Sami Zayn immediately goes low, hits Kevin Owens in the nuts. This led to the Helluva Kick a little bit later, the Uso Splash, and the Bloodline actually win this match. I'm dumbfounded by that decision. Anyway, so as the Bloodline wins, which was a surprise to me at least, Jay actually celebrates with Sammy. He hugs him, lifts him up, and everything. Everybody loves Sammy. Sammy is great. But I was paying attention to Roman. Roman looked less than enthused with the Jay's newfound acceptance of Sammy. And something in my mind told me he now is going to start not liking Sammy. You know, he's going to start trying to nitpick Sammy, find ways to get rid of Sammy or whatever. Something's just telling me that now that Jay finally likes him, Roman's going to change his opinion on Sammy. Maybe Sammy's a little too well liked in the family. You know, maybe Sammy's got a little too much acceptance. Maybe Sammy is got a little too much control. But this was great. You know, this was the final minutes of this match was really good. My critique of both WarGames matches, I gave them to you weeks ago. The match does not start for 25 minutes. So that means it's just a bunch of pointless brawling and fighting and jumping off stuff until the bell rings. And the bell doesn't ring for 25 minutes. So both of these matches were, almost an hour apiece, 40 minutes apiece or something like that. And I don't like the WarGames match. So it's even if I like the story, I don't like the WarGames. I don't like the format. You know, I don't like the lack of drama for this particular contest. Like, there needs to be the fear of winning and losing, or losing something within the amount of time that you're given. Like a 25-minute match for me, that's an investment. That's a lot of time you got to invest in a match. You know, if you're telling me the match doesn't even start for 25 minutes almost, I don't know, man. You're asking a lot. How are you going to keep people entertained and interested when no decision can be had? And this was something that I saw, you know, with some critiques online where people were saying, like, you know, it doesn't seem like people in the building are that interested. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure this was a different part of the show, because they were definitely into the WarGames matches. They were definitely into those concepts. But let's say that, for the sake of argument, that it was the WarGames matches. Well, it's hard to get involved with something where there is no stakes. You know, you don't win anything, you don't lose anything. And then you can't pin or make anybody submit for 20 minutes or so. So you want to see the brawling and the fighting, but you've been watching these guys brawl and fight for 3 weeks already. And that's kind of been part of the problem, that we've seen every variation of these guys wrestling each other. They've also had the obligatory brawl outside the ring a bunch of times. The obligatory brawl in the backstage area, in the aisleway, in the crowd. It's just been everywhere. You know, I'm talking for both matches. You know, so there's been so much contact between the two groups that it really just comes across as, how are we going to end this thing, more so than what are we going to get out of it? What's the drama as we're going to get into it? All right. I want to give some credit to Ridge Holland. His style has gotten a lot more generic. Clearly it's because of the injury to Big E. But this guy is working a pay-per-view main event. This Ridge Holland. And for a guy who nobody thought that much of when he was in NXT UK, probably people didn't even know he existed there. But when he came to main roster NXT, I don't think anybody saw this guy mixing it up with Roman Reigns so soon. Again, Ridge Holland has only been on the roster about a year. I'm talking main roster. He's only been there for about a year. You know, a little under a year. Maybe a little over a year. And he's already main evented his first pay-per-view. That's wild. You know, it's a member of a faction. But it's pretty wild. And I say, like, what if in 10 years, you know, you look back and say, oh, Ridge Holland, his first pay-per-view main event was against Roman Reigns and the Usos and all this stuff. Like, foreshadowing really good things for this guy. I know he probably probably would be better off if he hadn't hurt Big E. He probably would be trusted more to do more, but that trust is not going to be there right now. But I've always thought that he was a big dude. I wouldn't put him on the same level as Braun Breaker, or I'm probably pretty much the only one who is saying Madcap Moss might have something. I don't put him in that class yet because because of that injury to Big E. But also, I don't think the promo skills are there yet. He hasn't really done too many promos yet. But he's a fun, muscular addition to the Brawling Brutes, and he looks the part. He absolutely looks the part of a Brawling Brute, a guy who will fight you in a pub or something like that. So the Brawling Brutes did a really good job. Good match. Drew McIntyre still can't beat Roman Reigns no matter what you do. Same thing with Kevin Owens. Like they tried everything from handcuffs, fireballs, or whatever. They just can't beat Roman Reigns. The two of those guys will never beat Roman Reigns ever in anything. He's probably beating them in checkers and chess and Connect Four and everything around the house. He's probably beating them in Jenga. They shooting dice, losing all their money. They just can't beat Roman Reigns for nothing in the world. They throwing darts at pictures of Roman Reigns and missing. That's how fucking garbage Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens is when it comes to Roman Reigns. All right, moving on. AJ Styles defeats Finn Balor. So Finn Balor came out with a bucket on his face, and AJ Styles came out wearing, I guess, one of those gas masks, like an Onaga mask or whatever. I'm guessing this was the story that they were trying to tell, that they were showing here, is that a lot of these dudes have the same sort of moveset, and you saw that how they were kind of doing the same moves, or they were kind of following in each other's footsteps. That was, of course, supposed to be a nod to the Bullet Club, because they were trying to tell the Bullet Club story or whatever. And so I kind of got that out of it. The match itself was good. Of course, it wasn't going to... This match would have been a banger and a half 10 years ago. But it was just pretty fucking good here. Part of the problem why this match I don't think was better and the crowd wasn't as into it, one, it was following a women's WarGames match in which they jumped off everything and hit each other with stuff, and they fell through ladders and they broke tables and all kind of shit. So this was the bring them down match. It just was what it was. And Styles and Balor knew that. So they worked a different way because they knew they were following a match in which everybody's going to fall through all kinds of shit. Which is probably why they should have put Shotzi and Ronda Rousey right here. My opinion. They should have put Shotzi and Ronda Rousey in that second spot and put Styles and Balor on third. Anyway, I think Styles and Balor was also hurt by the, again, generic brawling of the OC and the Judgment Day outside the ring, because they seem to do so much of it. Like, there's just so much of we're going to grab each other and throw punches, and who cares if any of this crap makes contact or if it looks like any good or anything like that. So it just comes across as being pretty generic brawling. AJ Styles wins with the phenomenal forearm. I'm interested in that decision because now I'm like, okay, what do we do with Judgment Day? What does this mean? What does this portend for AJ Styles? Where do we go from here? That's the question. Nothing gained, nothing lost. And I think that was part of the reason why people were just having trouble getting into this match. And the people who watched it enjoyed it. But it could have been taken to the next level with some actual stakes. Like Judgment Day had to disband or something. Something had to change, occur, and there had to be some finality here. But they just put on a good work rate match between two older guys, and it was pretty good for what that was. The other match, on the other hand, though, Ronda Rousey and Shotzi. I am probably kinder to Shotzi than most people because genuinely I think Shotzi is interesting. I think she has an interesting look. She has an interesting presentation. But she has not had a good match since she got called up to WWE. Not one. And this has been over a year. At the very least, people can have good matches. She can't even do that. I'm beginning to think Shotzi is all personality, like 80 to 86% personality. You know, now when I watched her on the independent, she wasn't really particularly having great matches. She was having okay matches, but she was destroying herself at the same time. She was falling on the piles of chairs, and she was constantly getting hit with weapons and falling on concrete and all that kind of stuff. And that stuff was getting her over because she was, again, seen as the female Jeff Hardy. And that kind of works from time to time. But in a WWE context, when you're working with certain talents, it doesn't really work that way. Which is kind of what I think the Liv Morgan character that they were doing. With Liv Morgan, it's like wanting to do extreme shit and jump off high places. Like, that's more of a Shotzi gimmick, you know? That's more like something she would do. But they keep putting Shotzi in like regular wrestling matches. And these things just do not come out well. Now, there's a lot of fans who are blaming the badness, the shittiness of this match on Ronda Rousey. Which it's possible. She was in it. But Ronda at least has had good matches. Shotzi has not had one. Not one. I understand. I like Shotzi. But she has not had good match the first. She is just not good. Now, I'm pretty sure if you're watching this, you've seen the botch. The botch to end all botches where Ronda didn't want to take the DDT on the apron. So she made it look like shit. Instead of just, forcing audible to be called, she kind of let Shotzi do the DDT motion. And she didn't really go down. This match was sloppy. It was weird. Shotzi lost. Of course she did. It was anticlimactic. Of course it was. They did a spot where Shotzi did a crossbody off the top rope, but Ronda countered it into a little bit of a judo throw. I thought that was a nice spot. I think they should get some credit for that spot because it was not bad. Then they doubled down on the crossbody from the top by having Shotzi jump off of the barricade and crash through Shayna and Ronda and the first row seats. They were plants, obviously. Clearly wasn't going to be real fans. I mean, anybody who was acting like, oh, those were plants. They planted those fans. I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course they did. Of course they did. There were some really ugly bumps in this match too, like really ugly bumps. There was one bump where I think that Shotzi almost fell on her head. This match was bowling shoe ugly. Both women should apologize and donate their checks to the Performance Center and then go there and stay for 2 weeks. Both of them should go back for 2 weeks and just put the Smackdown Women's title in abeyance until until Ronda Rousey finds her personality and until Shotzi learns how to at least do an arm drag without looking like she's going to break every bone in her hip or some shit like that. But this match was dreadful. Easily the worst match of the night. I mean, but, looking at the rest of the card, of course it was the worst match of the night. It was going to be the worst match of the night. I just don't know. I guess you just throw Shotzi in the tag team division and let that be that, I think that's the best thing to do right now until her in-ring abilities get better. And I know she's been injured. She's been having back problems and everything, but it's not working out in the ring for Shotzi. And it's hard for me to dislike her, but I'm duty bound to tell the truth. She's not good. And so she needs to get it together. And also that barricade spot that they did where they tackled the front row, that would have been so much better than a no disqualification, falls count anywhere sort of environment. So whoever was the producer or the agent for this match who let them do that spot and it made the referee look dumb by not counting them out, they had to do the referee's going to give them leniency. It's like, come on. That's an AEW excuse. Just to hell with that. We already know the rules, man. Just save that spot for a no disqualification, no falls count anywhere kind of situation. All right. So Austin Theory wins the United States Championship. The finishing sequence to this match was awesome. The spear by Lashley interrupts the Falcon Arrow. Theory just happens to fall on Rollins and wins the belt. So Triple H goes through all of this trouble just to put him right back where Vince had him. See, when Vince got Austin Theory, he was not doing much of anything. He really wasn't doing anything in NXT either. Then he gets him involved with this egg storyline that he's created. And from there, he starts to sort of mentor him. And we see the progression of Austin Theory winning a lot. Then he becomes a United States champion. This was pretty early in his run. He defends the belt a couple of times before losing it. He got to mix it in with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Pat McAfee at WrestleMania. And that led, a little bit to his Money in the Bank win. That everybody, he's not ready yet. He's not ready yet. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, it's been a steady progression from doing nothing to establishing a character and a personality and a persona to winning matches, then winning championships, mixing in with top guys, then elevating. You go to the Money in the Bank. And then, of course, Vince steps down, Triple H takes over. He goes on a 22 match losing streak or some shit where he's doing jobs literally for Julio the Gardener. Duke the Dumpster's Rousey can jump off his couch and beat Austin Theory. And then he cashed in his Money in the Bank on a fucking mid-card belt, which made no fucking sense. It still doesn't make any fucking sense. Just to lose that match, just to win this one. So he threw away his briefcase only to win the match in a triple threat match, where the likelihood of him winning was actually far less. Okay. And Booker of the Year, everybody. Genius Triple H, everybody. The match itself was very good, though. You had a couple of really good spots in here. Rollins is super over, just tremendously over. And anybody touched Rollins, they kind of got booed. But they was doing some spots that I thought were pretty interesting. Some of them was kind of silly, like the sleeper on Lashley, while Lashley had Rollins in the hurt lock. That was kind of silly. The double hurt lock, a little silly, but it was cool. So Austin Theory wins. He's back where he was in February, March. Just with a Beyblade Titantron now. They put a sponsorship in my man's entrance. That's how much they thought about him. They cared about him so much they put a sponsorship in his entrance. What you doing ain't important. Beyblade. Yeah. Beyblade. That's exactly what I'm interested in during a wrestling show. At least it was during the Tron and it wasn't, a commercial where he's literally playing with a Beyblade backstage. It's like I thought you were putting away your childish things, young Austin Theory, young Master Theory. But it was a good match. Rollins, I'm guessing Rollins is the next guy, and we do Rollins and Roman again. That would be the only reason why Rollins would lose the title, is if we're gonna go world title, Rollins and Roman. And speaking of Roman was not looking thrilled about what happened after Bloodline, after the WarGames match. So maybe that's the direction we're going in. I thought maybe the Brawling Brutes would win to set up maybe Sheamus and Roman. Or, once it was Kevin Owens, I figured Kevin Owens might be next. But I think both heel stables should have lost. The Bloodline winning creates more scenarios, of course, for their story. And maybe they'll kick Sammy out or whatever closer to WrestleMania instead of trying to kick him out now. So I expect it to probably happen in like late January, early February then. Maybe a couple of weeks of Roman brewing. Not really being a fan of Jey Uso getting the glory of winning the match. Maybe that's going to be his thing. He's going to say that, oh, you want to be the tribal chief, huh? You want to be the man, huh? Because that's how Roman is. But overall, I think the show was pretty good. The only match that was really subpar was Rhea and Shotzi. I know a lot of people are disappointed there was no extras. There was no bonus material at all. No promo from Bray Wyatt. No nothing. Nobody appeared that wasn't supposed to be there. They didn't do anything special, or it's just 5 matches. 5 straight fucking matches. So that's been Triple H's MO. As they just deliver on the in-ring stuff. You know, and if it doesn't deliver that way, then you're fucked. So that's why I'm looking at Shotzi so heavily. Because I'm saying to myself, baby girl, if you can't work in the work rate era, I don't know what to tell you. You know, but they're going to help her out because I think Triple H likes her. I do have sort of some outside the box Roman Reigns ideas that I kind of want to throw out there. Now that we've seen the galvanizing of the bloodline, Roman's probably going to start doing stuff to try to cause dissension again, because that seems to be how he does things. He likes to pit people against each other. You know, he pit himself against Jay against the family, then Jay against Jimmy, then, you know, Jimmy against himself, in order to test people to see whether they are really down for the cause. So I'm going to guess that he's going to start being the one acting weird, and going to see whether Sammy is really family by if the boys are going to take up for Sammy when he starts to do stuff to Sammy. So I'm guessing he's going to do something, say something, start screwing around with Sammy eventually. And basically we're going to have to start seeing if it's going to ever end up like, what's that, that Denzel Washington movie? I'm going to put cases on all you bitches. Like, that would be a great way to end the bloodline, with every member of the bloodline essentially turning on Roman at the same time. Rather than Roman kicking them out, that all of them just basically turn their backs to him and walk off. Like, that would be a great way to end that storyline. And is it possible that that's where we could go with it? But I do still believe that we're going to end up with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn as partners. But I think Kevin Owens is going to have to forgive Sami Zayn. As we've seen on the internet, if you've seen it a couple of times, if you haven't, it's not my idea, but it is something that is true, that Sami Zayn is almost always the foil. He's almost always the guy who Kevin Owens turns on. You know, Kevin Owens always betrays Sami Zayn. In this instance, it's Sami Zayn being loyal to people who are already his friends. So he's sticking by the bloodline, you know, which is the right decision to make. But is Roman going to be the problem now? Is Roman going to, like, I get it that the issue that most people are going to be talking about is Roman has no opponents and his title run's going on forever. Who is he going to wrestle? I still think it might be like Seth Rollins or something like that. But the story is going to be, how are they going to continue to end the inside drama of the bloodline? Because that's what people are very interested in. And now that Sammy has acceptance, we have to create a new problem. So I don't think it'll be with Solo. So it has to be Roman and Sammy. You know, and I'm looking at the body language of Roman after he won the match. He didn't look like a guy who won. He looked like a guy who was not even satisfied with what happened. You know, while the Usos were incredibly happy, Roman looked a little bit upset. So I'm interested in where we're going with this. And it's going to be beautiful, hopefully. But let me know what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.